Okay, I'm Don Cravens, Senior, and of course I am, well, not of course, I'm the mayor of Opelousas, which is the Zydeco capital of the world, as designated by the state of Louisiana, of course, and by me.
Uh, Dustin.
Oh, I'm Dustin Cravens. I'm a marketing manager, also one of the organizers for Zydeco Extravaganza, which is coming up next weekend. So.
And I'm Charles Cravens. I'm an attorney and been one of the founders of Zydeco Extravaganza 28 years ago, and also started the rejuvenation of trail rides back in the 80s and just the preservation of Zydeco music and the Creole culture.
Could you tell me a little bit about the trail rides?
Uh, have you been to trail rides?
We went to the one last night.
Yeah. Trail rides have evolved from what it sounds like, which is a group of people getting out on horses and riding trails, to a social event where you have trail ride clubs and people go to trail rides. They're bands. It's really a weekly festival that moves from place to place, that involves the horse culture and a lot of Zydeco music. And it's popular in Louisiana, very, very popular, but also in Texas, especially eastern Texas, and now western Mississippi.
And of course, it started probably more as a social gathering, and then of course it evolved into a commercial event.
Right.
Now it's a big event, particularly in some instances. For example, with the Big 8 Trail Ride, which is one of the biggest ones probably in the country.
So I was wondering, and any of you feel free to speak to this, just how Zydeco has changed in your lifetimes.
Well, I can speak a little bit to it, and of course, both of the other guys can too. It started as la la music, which was kind of a slower rhythm, I guess would be one of the ways to put it. Kind of, the lyrics were always, in my opinion, kind of bluesy, because it spoke about hard times and probably the condition of life of people, and of course. Amadé Odwin, who is the founder really of Zydeco and Cajun music, who would be considered the founder, I think, would be the person that could be given the credit for a lot of what has evolved over the years. And of course, as the time changed, new instruments were brought in, and now it's evolved a lot, even over the last 28 years or 30 years that we've been involved directly in it. It's changed a lot, and of course Dustin would probably talk about the new Zydeco. But then we find, even as it evolves, the people that continue the traditional music they always come back to it. I mean, it'll go from one end to the next. It'll go almost to rap sometimes, and of course for people like me, it really doesn't excite me. But then it always kind of just comes right back. And even the young musicians like Keith Frank and Chris Ardwan, those that are making those old songs with the language and the rhythm of yesterday, kind of managed to keep that following, or Buckwheat, or those guys.
And it seems like, especially now, there's been a resurgence of more traditional Zydeco music after the early 2000s, where they went to a lot of hip hop, and now it's going back to more traditional type sound. Gradually, and it's always, and what happens is, for a while with Clifton Chenier, it was mostly blues, and but then it came back with Buzu Chavis, and so, but you keep those blues elements, and you all the elements once they come in rock and roll. Stanley Buckwheat Dural has done some with some more R&B type flavor, and those elements come in, and then the predominance of it might fade away, but the elements are still there. It's just like the cuisine. The same thing happens. You get infusions from different cultures, and then in the end you have a different, you have a slightly different product with all those influences.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dustin.
You also, one of the things that you would probably find interesting is the fact that even though the music kind of changes and evolves, the family names a lot of times remain the same.
Right.
You have third and fourth generation musicians who are carrying on their family
Absolutely.
legacy musically, and so which is very important, and I think that's why we still hear those core elements in a lot of the music, is because of the fact that they know where it comes from. I mean, you know, they didn't just wake up one day and decide, oh, I'm gonna play an accordion. You know, their grandfather played, and you know, their dad and their sisters in some instances, and so, you know, it's just to me, it's a very unique and beautiful thing in that regard, because of the fact that it's passed down generation after generation, and while the music does change, you know, we're all still here, you know, and I'm a testament to that, or proof of that. You know, these guys started this 30 years ago, and you know, now here it is, second generation. My cousins and I are kind of, you know, picking that up and keeping it going, and hopefully, you know, the same will happen for our kids after us. And so, you know, I think that's a huge part of our culture is that tradition and that sense of family.
And you're right. But you can't talk about Zydeco and Creole unless you talk about the cooking and the food. I mean, it's just all together. I mean, you know, the guy who's playing that accordion knows how to make a good gumbo. Probably, it's not we know how to make it,
He's eaten one before.
He's eaten a few. I mean, and it's just, this is the unique. I call it, again, might be my own, the uniqueness of our culture right here. I mean, there's no other culture like it anywhere in the world. And you know, if you talk about Creole, if you talk about Cajun, but if you talk about Creole and Zydeco, there's no other place like it. And if you go to a Zydeco function, you're going to have some great Creole food. I mean, you're going to have some. You're not going to go there and have chicken fried steak. I mean, you're not going to have a booth at the trail ride where they're selling that kind of. It's going to be jambalaya. It's going to be boudin. It's going to be the bon gratin. It's going to be some crackling. It's going to be something that is part of this culture.
That's right.
And that's you got to almost be here. You got to be in it to really know it. Because if you know it, you feel it, and you think it, and you live it. And there's no way you'll sit down with a good Zydeco song playing that you're not going to tap your feet. Doesn't matter if you can dance. I never could learn how to dance, but you will.
That's true.
And that's true. But that's true. But that's okay. But when it comes to the heart and soul of the music and the culture, I've just tried to embody that, because that's my life. I mean, it's just part of living. It's never too hot to eat gumbo in Southwest Louisiana. As a matter of fact, I cooked a big pot last night. I'm going to eat some more when I get home. I mean, that's just the way it is. So,
the other question I have is the industry. In terms of the industry, how have you seen that change and develop?
not what it should be.
Yeah, the Zydeco music industry has never become what I think it could have become. And I think a lot of that might have something to do with the independent nature of people. If people could get together and work together, the various groups, I think they could do a lot better. We've been waiting for a long time for one of these guys to really catch on and cross over and really bring some more attention to the music. And it's going to happen sooner or later, just like it happened with Bob Marley maybe, or somebody else. Somebody's going to come up with something. The closest thing that we've had to that was Tutu, Rockin' Sydney, years ago. We've talked about Zydeco Extravaganza today. It's coming up next week. Rockin' Sydney played Zydeco Extravaganza when he was living, as have all of the Zydeco greats who were alive during the last 30 years. They've all been there. But the industry, like with the rest of the music industry, you don't have as much, you don't have vinyl anymore, and you probably Zydeco music is more reliant on CDs than
Digital sales.
than digital sales, and more than other genres are. But as I think about your question, we go through ebbs and flows, ebbs and what happens is that you have certain points independent of what's happening in the rest of the country, that Zydeco gets to be really, really hot in this area. And then you have other times when the guys have to make their living on the road. And so the when they first started, not first started, but years ago, the big thing used to be church dances. Well, first it was house dances. People had dances in houses. Then it was church dances, and then there were major Zydeco clubs. And now it's more of a festival and trail ride. As far as the live entertainment industry, it's more festivals and trail rides. And there's still some clubs that are very strong, but the focus has shifted away from the clubs to the festival and trail ride market.
And the other side of that, which get kind of clouded, is the fact that if you could measure, it's a huge industry that you can't really individually measure. If you look at tourism in Louisiana, which is probably maybe the biggest business in this state, Zydeco is a huge part of that draw. Now, how does it benefit the musicians? Well, a little bit, I guess, in the industry. But in terms of a measurable industry, it's hard to be able to figure. But in terms of tourism, and I think we had something like 14 million tourists that came in Louisiana last year.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And that's a huge part. It's probably the number one and number two industry in the state.
Yeah.
So it is a big industry here. Not nearly as recognized and given credit
That's correct.
that it deserves.
Right. It doesn't get the credit it
No.
deserves, because a big part of that draw is Zydeco music.
No doubt about it.
That's. I mean,
Yeah.
when you watch a movie,
You're gonna, you might have buckwheat in the background. You watch the Super Bowl. I mean, anyway. Look at the Grammy winners, and that's something that I think is going to change the face of Zydeco. Terrence Seymour, 2-time Grammy winner. That's pretty significant. Comes from Mallet. Rockin' Sydney. Queen Ida, though she doesn't live here, her roots are here. Chubby Carrier, Buckwheat. And that's, to me, the evolution that we're seeing now, because it's starting to get more and more recognition. And I agree with Charles and Dustin too. At some point, it's going to cross over. Somebody's going to grab us on, and it'll go wild.
have to stop.